Howdy y'all, today we're going to look at some photographs of Ankara, Turkey. Why is this important? If you've watched any of my previous videos, you've seen an abundant correlation between a cataclysmic event or a series of them, which constantly appear to stumble the progression of mankind. The last hiccup, so to speak, in this naturally occurring progression could be seen as the mini ice age. What did this do? It shifted cultures significantly, migrating entire groups of people, but in a more direct sense, when the frozen tundra thawed, it created great advances of mud and water, sometimes referred to as a deluge. Fringe historians may argue this deluge is the one written about in the ancient texts of a wide array of ancient cultures. What does this cataclysmic event leave behind? Imagine, if you will, quicksand, the liquefaction of the earth. While in many aspects, the earth did not open up with the waters rushing forth, but rather, the land was quickly thawed from frozen, and the rivers rose significantly, causing the most important cities, usually built along the rivers and the coastlines, to be flooded, inundated with mud, and then abandoned. At the same time, we have primitive evidence which suggests this occurrence happens in cycles more regularly than previously believed. We see ancient mounds, tells, and even more modern structures like Dark Age castles, which appear to have been fused with the land around them. The earth and the weather has caused the foundations of many ancient structures to become buried beneath the layers of mud that occurred after this mini ice age. In some of the most ancient and important cities, as I said, we can see evidence of this happening multiple times. That brings me to today's example. We will look at Ankara, Turkey, and the Ankara Castle. Ankara, historically pronounced Ankara or Angora, is the capital of Turkey. The population within the city limits exceeds 5 million, while the greater Ankara area is nearly 6 million people. It is the second largest city in Turkey, behind Istanbul. Now let's talk esoteric yet well-established history. I will incorporate my narrative with the oldest and most interesting photographs of Ankara. The oldest settlements in Ankara date back to the Bronze Age, when the Hittites thrived in this area. By roughly the year 1000 BC, the Hittites amalgamated with the Phrygians, believed by most historians to have occurred due to a cataclysm. This destructive event was said to be an earthquake, which razed the capital city of Phrygia, leading King Midas to relocate his people to Ankara. However, Hittite sources claim Ankara and its foundation predates the Phrygians significantly. According to this same narrative, Ankara progressed to Lydian control first, followed by Persian control, all the while maintaining its strong Phrygian roots, as depicted in the Roman-era art and gravestones. Ankara was considered a Phrygian oasis until it was fully captured and razed by Alexander the Great in the year 333 BC. At this point, Ankara experienced its largest period of growth since ancient Phrygian times and became a key trading post for the Greeks, Assyrians, Lebanese, Georgians, Armenians, and Persians, just to name a few. Here's the point in the history which really confounded me the most. By the year 278 BC, Ankara was taken over by the Celtic people known as the powerful Galatians. It is believed by modern historians that the Celtic royalty built advanced mounds with castles on top, including the earliest version of Ankara Castle during this time period. This can be attested to by multiple sources, including St. Jerome in the 4th century, claiming that the language spoke in Ankara matched the language spoke to the far north of the known Roman world. In 25 BC, Augustus is said to have conquered Ankara, although it seems more as though an agreement was reached with minimal violence. Ankara was made capital of the Roman province Galatia and was world famous for the Temple of Augustus in Rome. Ankara and most of Galatia continued to speak Celtic languages, a combination of Gaelic and Welsh. By the 2nd century, over 200,000 people lived prosperously in Ankara, and it was said to be larger than any city in Britain or anywhere in Gaul. However, by the 3rd century, Ankara was invaded by the Goths, followed by the Arabs, who set up their princess Zenobia from Palmyra within Ankara. When Ankara was recaptured by the Roman Empire by Aurelian, it was greatly expanded, including intricate roads and fortifications. After the 4th century, Ankara transformed again into a resort city of sorts for retired Roman generals and foreign dignitaries. Its continued wealth was halted multiple times by incursions from the Middle East. However, it continued to be an important and expansive city of trade for the Byzantine Empire through the 12th century, albeit through numerous times of war. The Sultan of Turkey annexed Ankara in 1073, only to have the city retaken by Christian crusaders during the Crusade of 1101, when it was returned to Byzantine control. The Ottoman Empire gained control of Ankara in 1356, only to have Timur of the Turkish Empire overtake Ankara in 1402. The following year, 1403, Ankara was returned to the Ottoman Empire, all the while experiencing significant losses in architecture due to the warring factions. Ankara remained an important center to the Ottoman Empire until their defeat following World War I. The Ottoman Empire was disbanded, and Ankara, not Constantinople, became the new capital of the newly established Republic of Turkey in 1923. Ankara, from 1923 onward, was protected by the Turkish government and includes an old section of the city with preserved buildings from ancient times. Therefore, it provides us with some of the most substantial and remarkable images of any Old World city. Ankara is considered by most modern historians to be the oldest of the significant ancient cities, those cities which remained fully occupied throughout their existence. Ankara, for example, is far older than cities like London, Paris, or Madrid, and when Istanbul was being considered for the new Roman capital in 324, Ankara was already the established ancient administrative center for all of what is today Turkey. As far as the Ankara Castle, we're told this fortification, which in fact is multiple layers of fortifications, weaving up and down the rolling hills and mounds of Ankara, was first established in the 8th century BC by the Phrygians. Here, these red-capped individuals reshaped the landscape, piling amounts of earth and harvesting stone to create the earliest walls of protection around Ankara. This castle was then destroyed, but most likely it was inherited and modified by the Galatians in roughly 278 BC. The subsequent layers of the castle could be attributed to both groups. The Persians, in their conquering of the city, described razing the castle entirely, claiming any construction after that time period to be their own, although this is argued against by many modern historians. The castle of Ankara was subsequently added to by the Romans, then by the Byzantine, and finally by the Ottoman Empire, resulting in the amalgamation of massive mound-top fortifications that we see today. A history that's mirrored in architecture convoluted by the hands of time. Our best chance to make an interpretation of all this narrative has to offer? By viewing these oldest and most detailed photographs of Ankara that I've provided for you today. Hopefully, this video was both informative and these photographs enjoyable for you. I thank you so much for joining me today. We're nearly at 50,000 subscribers, and I just wanted to give you a big thank you. I look forward to discussing Ankara and the Old World with you in the comment section of this video, and I can't wait to further our discussion on the next one. Thank you again for being here. Cheers.